We're here, of course, with Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com, who has this piece out. As of yesterday afternoon, Israeli military kills 2 more journalists in separate attacks in Gaza. Israeli strikes killed Hassam Shabat, a reporter for Al Jazeera, and Mohammed Mansour, a correspondent for Palestine Today TV. On Monday, the Israeli military killed 2 journalists in Gaza in separate attacks, continuing the IDF's rampant targeting of Palestinian reporters. Mohammed Mansour, a correspondent for Palestine Today TV, was killed by an Israeli airstrike on a home near the southern city of Khan Yunis. 2 women were also killed by the attack. In northern Gaza, 23-year-old Hassam Shabat, a reporter for Al Jazeera, was killed by an airstrike on his car. Shabat was also a contributor to the American news site DropSite News. He was previously put on a kill list by the IDF, which accused him of being a terrorist, of course, without providing evidence. Jeremy Scahill, one of the co-founders of DropSite News, tweeted this out yesterday morning. Israel publicly put Hassam on a kill list, and he would receive threatening calls and warnings. He saw his friends murdered, yet he never ceased his journalism, his absolute dedication to showing the world the reality of the Israeli genocide against the Palestinians of Gaza. Once again, 23 years old. According to Gaza's government media office, the deaths of Mansour and Shabat brought the total number of journalists killed by Israel in Gaza since October 2023 to 208. The Palestinian Journalist Syndicate described Israel's actions as the, quote, deadliest massacre against journalists in modern history amidst an alarming international silence and disgraceful complicity with the crimes of the occupation. Now, DropSite published a few videos of their colleague, and I'm going to show you one of them here. We're sharing below clips of journalist Hassam Shabat, whom Israel assassinated in northern Gaza earlier today. He was a role model to Gaza's children, especially those aspiring to become reporters. So here's this video.
عندك استشهاد ليه؟ شو ليش؟ ما فات جودة شمال. كنا نعيط عليك والله
لهالدرجة؟
بتنام بايش؟
لا
اله الا الله والله نزل عليك قسما بالله العلي العظيم نزل عليك
اشتقتي لنا يعني؟
والله اشتقت لنا
جدع ايش بدك تصيري لما تكبري؟
صحفية بقول كيف بدي اصير صحفية وحسام شماتة يستشهد كيف بدي اصير صحفية؟
لا ليش نستشهد؟
لا يبعد الشر عنك كيف بدي اصير صحفية سعيدة؟
لا بنسويك صحفية بدك صحفية تصيري؟
ان شاء الله
تصير صحفية يلا سلام يلا سلام.
Heartbreaking, obviously. Khaleesi tweets, journalist Hassam Shabat's final message. So this was taken from DropSite. So this is the real deal statement here. If you're reading this, it means I've been killed, most likely targeted by the Israeli occupation forces. When this all began, I was only 21 years old, a college student with dreams like anyone else. For the past 18 months, I have dedicated every moment of my life to my people. I documented the horrors in northern Gaza minute by minute, determined to show the world the truth they tried to bury. I slept on pavements, in schools, in tents, anywhere I could. Each day was a battle for survival. I endured hunger for months, yet I never left my people's side. By God, I fulfilled my duty as a journalist. I risked everything to report the truth, and now I am finally at rest. Something I haven't known in the past 18 months. I did all this because I believe in the Palestinian cause. I believe this land is ours, and it has been the highest honor of my life to die defending it and serving its people. I ask you now, do not stop speaking about Gaza. Do not let the world look away. Keep fighting, keep telling our stories until Palestine is free. For the last time, Hassam Shabat from northern Gaza. It's just, it's almost too much to even do on the air, honestly. The courage these people have to know they're probably going to die. He prepared a statement with knowledge that the odds of him making it through this were not good. And yet, as you just said, Dave, before we cut in on this segment, you have almost silence from mainstream media in this country who are supposed to, supposedly devoted to the craft and the cause of journalism, hardly anyone saying anything about this. You have any comment on that? We have some more.
Yeah, I mean, but this kid, I mean, he was 23 years old, and it's especially sad just because he was someone who I've followed basically through this whole thing, because he had he was pretty active on X, and he reported for Drop Site, so I was very aware. He had a very recognizable like face and look to him, and I just really followed him, and he just looked like a nice young guy. And two of his friends were killed, I think, last year in airstrikes, and he was put on that kill list. And yeah, it didn't stop him. And the IDF admitted that they targeted him. Like this was a direct assassination of a journalist, and there's no way around that. I mean, of course, the accusation is that he was a terrorist, but I mean, there's just absolutely no evidence for that. And yeah, I mean, it's just horrible.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a prolific journalist. I mean, that accusation, of course, is just nonsense on its face. He's been doing journalism nonstop for the last year and a half. He hasn't been fighting even. So Drop Site News issued a statement. You can read this on their site. This is lengthy, so we're not going to read this now. But the takeaway, obviously, is we hold, both Israel and the U.S. government responsible, which, Dave, as you just said, that's not a stretch. Israel put him on a kill list. Now, as for Mohammed Mansour, this is another really tough video to take, but this is Mohammed's father grieving over him. So he has passed on in this video. That's why Al Jazeera blurred out his face. But let's take a look at this.
احكي للعالم، احكي للعالم، احكي انت اللي تحكي، الصورة بتعبر.
حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل.
خليه يحكي امسك، احكي ضلك احكي ضلك احكي. يا ريتني صاحب واستمر، واقول يا ريتني صاحب واكمل عنك يا ريتني صحفي واكمل عنك كمان، اكمل والله بكمل عنك، مستعد اصير صحفي.
Obviously just horrible. And Dave, you mentioned earlier, there's a new Morlock in town. We used to call Matthew Miller Morlock because he looked like a vampire and talked like a vampire. But hey, at least Morlock made eye contact with reporters when they were asking about these things. Here's the new one. So who is this? Tammy Bruce? Is that her name?
Yeah, I think that's her name.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I didn't know her name. But this is really the first we've seen of her. So these are the new sort of Matthew Miller type briefings. She barely even gives the courtesy of eye contact to the reporter when asking about the murder of these journalists.
Two more journalists, Hossam Shabat of Al Jazeera Mubasher, Mohammed Mansour of Palestine Today. That brings the number to 208. Each one was individually targeted. The IDF says they used extensive intelligence gathering and precise munitions. Shabat killed in his car, Mansour in his house. The Committee to Protect Journalists is once again
text messages.
Targeted killing of journalists is a war crime. Do you have any comment?
I would say that every single thing that's happening is a result of Hamas.
Yeah, so there you have it. So just no accountability whatsoever. Nothing is Israel's fault under any context. This is the new party line. And we knew it would come to this. People, including ourselves. I mean, we were all happy when a ceasefire was negotiated. It was obvious, including the people in Gaza for obvious reasons. But there was always a dark cloud hanging over that ceasefire because it was pretty obvious how it would end. And here we are. And with this crew in town, this is what you're going to get, this kind of stonewalling. This is the difference between Trump and Biden. Under Biden, Matthew Miller would say, Israel's going to investigate and we'll follow up, and they never will. These people are just going to say, nope, sorry. None of it's their fault. None of it's their fault. Fuck you. That's basically the line out of this crew. Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, that is what you're going to get. They're not going to pretend like they're upholding the rules-based order or anything. Just going to be more kind of outright with what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, it's just, man. And like you said, I was hopeful too when that ceasefire was reached, but and now you have Steve Witkoff. He's saying the same thing. He's just like, oh, it's all Hamas's fault, even though he supposedly got Israel to sign the deal, and they violated the deal that he got them to sign. It just makes you wonder. And I suspected this was possible at the time, that he told them, like, sign the deal now. You don't have to implement the whole thing.
No, that's not speculation. I mean, Netanyahu came out when the ceasefire was inked because, believe it or not, as Israeli politics go, Netanyahu is the moderate. Half the country is to his right. And so he came out and said, to save political face, hey, don't worry, Donald Trump basically told us that this is only temporary. And so, yeah, I mean, the writing was on the wall from the time that deal was inked. So yeah, you're not going out on a limb there. That's well established that Netanyahu made a point to his people, hey, this is only temporary. Yeah.
Yeah, Witkoff, when he went on with Tucker, he said, I think they had no choice but to end the ceasefire. Hamas was being completely unreasonable, which all reports say the opposite.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's just a matter of fact that Israel wanted to extend phase 1 and not go into phase 2, because phase 2 of negotiations would require making a concrete plan for a permanent end to violence. Israel didn't want to agree to a permanent end to violence because Netanyahu's war aims are to obviously eliminate Hamas entirely from the region. And so basically, Israel wanted to get as many hostages back without committing to a permanent ceasefire. And once that fell apart, obviously, here we are now. But yeah, I mean, 208 journalists in just over a year and a half. I mean, I don't know. I don't know, Dave. Do you have this information at hand? Is this the deadliest war for journalists in history, at least as a proportion? If not raw numbers.
I think so. I mean, I don't have statistics to look at, but I can't remember or think of anything in history like this, like at this rate, killing journalists. And you see the accusation, and you see people justifying these. The Israel defenders online, they'll post social media post from a journalist that he expressed some kind of support for like resistance, and as if that is justification to kill them. That's like, oh, well, then every pro-war journalist in the US, they can be killed in a drone strike and you would have no problem with that. I mean, it's just totally ridiculous.
Yeah, pretty horrific, pretty awful. But Dave DeCamp, I want to plug your donate link again, antiwar.com/donate. You guys do such valuable work over there. You make our jobs a lot easier. That's for sure. So help Dave, help us by going to antiwar.com/donate. Anything else you'd like to say where people can find you? I know you're on X. Any other plugs you got?
Yeah, I mean, that's really it. And again, I really appreciate you plugging the fundraiser. That's really nice of you to do. People could also check out my show. It's called Anti-War News with Dave DeCamp, where I basically go over the news stories that I write up that day and other stuff. It's like 25 to 30 minutes, kind of a daily update.
And that's on YouTube as well, right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Dave. Well, hey, like I said, we're big fans of you guys over there, and it was great to meet you. We'd love to have you on again soon. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye-bye.
Please clap.